Alright guys, today we are going to show you guys how to do the inverted border effect on containers in Elementor. Now, there are ways to do this on image elements by using natively built-in Elementor mask features with an SVG mask, and that is essentially what we're going to be doing with a container, except just doing it with CSS code. Now there is a snippet in this code that is pretty important, especially for responsiveness, that you're going to want to see later when we get to it. So let's hop right into it. So I'm sure you guys have seen this as an example. It went around on awards. It's a pretty common website now. And this is one of the spots where a lot of people got the inspiration from. So this here. Now this can actually be done in Elementor natively with an SVG mask. We're going to show you how to do it on a container. So you can have all of like a heading in there. You can have buttons inside of there. Let's show you an actual example. So this is a website I'm working on for a local company here. And they're willing to share this. This is actually still kind of in staging right now. As you see, I have these corner cutouts, this cool little shape here. That's actually outside of it technically, but I can have text inside of it. And here we actually have dynamic text inside of it. And as you see, we have sort of different elements going on, and then it kind of fits together. It has this like puzzle theme going on here. So this is an example of what that looks like, and we're actually going to show you how to do that on another build. Before we show you how to do that though, I want to show you how to build these shapes in Figma first. Now there's a couple key things that you're actually going to need to complete this tutorial. And that is going to be SVG exporter on Figma itself, and then also the URL encoder website. I will have both these links in the description of the YouTube video. So let's hop right into it. This right here is an example of one of the shapes. I just have this on a random Figma document that I actually use specifically for SVGs. As you see, if I go over here to plugins and SVG export, it shows this. You can go ahead and click on it and you get this SVG code. You copy and paste that into the encoder here, and then you'll actually use the URL portion of this in your code, and that's actually what's going to be the SVG mask. So let's jump right into making one of these first. So I wanted to show you kind of how that worked. Let's just toss a square in here, just get that off the screen for an example. Let's toss another square in. Let's make this kind of a funky shape. Let's make this a little longer. I'm gonna do this. So that's all right. That's kind of cool. But how do we make it? Like I can give this one border. I can give this one border. But you see, it doesn't have the border there. So what you're gonna want to do is actually highlight everything, or the two specific ones that you're gonna be working on. Then you're gonna click union selection here. Now you see it didn't automatically apply that, so if you go ahead and then add a border radius there, now you see that happen there. So let's do this to the whole thing, union, and let's just give it a 20. Boom. Now you see. Now let's go and export this with the SVG exporter. There's multiple different ways to export this. This is the way that I happen to use. Another key note here is if you actually have this filled, like if you have images inside of here, what you're going to want to do is hide all of those layers and just have one solid color in there. That's just going to give the SVG a bunch of extra data that you don't need, and potentially slow things down. I mean, marginally, but it's just going to make the code snippet a whole bunch longer, makes it a little uglier, try to make things as lean as possible. So what you're going to do, highlight your element there, or highlight your shape that you're going to want to export. Go over to plugins and do SVG export. Then it'll pull up that SVG here. You can go ahead and click on it and then copy and paste this code it gives you here. So you're going to see a little preview window. It always is pretty much messed up, but as long as you see the color that you selected, I usually use like a bright orange or a bright red, just to kind of know if I'm getting the right code. Sometimes other things are in my clipboard. And then this is the image that you're going to be needing here. Alrighty, let's go ahead and build one of these sections in Elementor. So I'm actually going to put that inside of another section, another container. This is typically actually how I build it. So when I am building, let's go over to one of the examples. So these are all specifically when like this one, I have like a button that is outside of the mask technically. So I have a base container that everything is housed in, and then I add the shape container. So like this itself, inside of these borders is another container. So what we're going to do, because I want to actually mask out this section here, right click, copy, and then just right click in here and paste. Yes, that worked. Boom, and you are not seeing my mouse because I have certain things on this website. Let's make this min height 95 for this sake. Place that in the center. Let's move my little head down. Alright, so now we have this container here, and we want to add that shape that we just created in the beginning of this. So we have this code, we put it in the SVG encoder. Now I'm actually going to copy and paste some code over into here that will be in the description that you guys can use. Alrighty, we just copy and pasted the code. This is actually code from another website that I was using, but as you see, the main line that I want to draw attention to is this aspect ratio. Then a couple other things. Works just like a background image. So we have the mask repeat on no repeat. If you can find creative ways to use the repeat, feel free to use that. And then mask size 100% and auto. Yeah, these are hidden for right now. You can do different things like containing. If you want to contain it inside, I have found that this works best for kind of keeping it cohesive, specifically at different sizes of a screen. So webkit-mask-size 100, and then there you see the aspect ratio. So what we're going to do is go over to our URL encoder and copy and paste just kind of this data section inside the parentheses here. We're going to add this in the mask URL. Boom, you see nothing changes. Then we're going to add it inside the webkit mask URL. Boom. Now we have that. And now it's always going to be 100. But you see things are kind of odd. It's not aligned the way we want it to. So this is where you kind of play around with certain things. So for example, now you see a lot of this containers like Elementor natural stuff that it would show gets cut off here. So like, well, the mouse isn't showing because that's something I have on this website. But what we want to do is actually change this aspect ratio to be exactly the same. Now, this isn't a necessary step. This is something that I use specifically when I was placing them together like this. When I was placing them together like this, I was keeping aspect ratio so things fit together like puzzle pieces. When you have something like a solo header, just kind of this element here, it's not as necessary to have that bit of code, because if you have the mask set width at 100, it'll naturally be responsive. But I'm just going to show you guys what I did again for sake of the tutorial. So as we see here, it is 858 by 510. We're going to go ahead and put that in. So 858 510. And then this is where you start to play around with how things are in that. So let's center this. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and add a bunch of left padding. And there we go. Now we have a container that is successfully has that inverted mask. It will be responsive as you see things change at different sizes. One thing to note is that when you have things like this, specifically a wide section with content, you may want to have an alternative specifically for mobile. Just so you can have a different shape. Like for example, let's just jump over to the Figma for the website that we are working on. So all those sections that you are seeing there, I have a different layout specifically for mobile, just because you lose some of those details and I don't think it is as cool. So if you can, especially because I didn't like fit into the text before, this had a full like puzzle piece theme, so I went a little above and beyond to create something that is a little bit more cohesive. What you're gonna do is just sandwich that code that you added here in the at media CSS query, and then just set a different size. So I could just go ahead and type that there. I'm not gonna go and do that. So I just typically have a size for desktop, so above 1024 pixels, and then one just below 1024 pixels, 1024, however you want to say it. So hopefully that helps you guys create those inverted containers. Go ahead and play around with this. It's really fun. You can throw videos in the background. You can throw whatever you want. It's going to be able to mask everything. So you can basically mask anything that you ever want inside of Elementor, instead of just images. You are no longer limited. All of the code, all of the tools that I use to do this will be in the description. Please subscribe for more videos like this on Elementor. Thank you.